Hey guys, today I'm going to be working on another 12 by 12 layout. This is another travel layout. These pictures are from Vietnam, and I have pre-printed my journaling onto a piece of wood grain pattern paper from the collection pad, and I'm just going to be starting the layout out with that. So now I'm going to take another scrap I have of this yellow-green paper, and I want the entire right side of the page to have this paper as a base, but I don't have a big enough piece. Well, I mean, I have a 12 by 12 of it, but I don't want to use it. I want to see if I can make this piece work. So what I'm going to do is cut it in half and put this butterfly paper in between. And that way it'll look like the butterfly paper is layered on top of it. And it's a whole sheet, a whole background sheet. So I'm just figuring out my photo placement, and then I'm going to start marking where I need to make my cuts so that I can split this polka dot piece in half and adhere half of it to the top and half of it to the bottom. Right now I'm just erasing my pencil mark, and now I'm going to start sticking things down. So because I've been changing my mind a lot when I've been working on projects lately, I'm actually just putting adhesive in the four corners of the pieces so they'll be easier to pull up later if I need to. So now I'm going to put my four pieces of adhesive down, and then of course my pink ATG is still being a pain. It still has a gremlins infestation. I shouldn't have fed it after midnight. And then I'm going to put the other, so I'm putting this down, and now I'm looking at my butterflies, I'm looking at my photo, and I'm going to put the butterflies under the photo. And it's bothering me that there are little tiny bits of butterflies from the row above that are cut off. So I'm actually just going to take a ruler and trim those off so that I have a whole butterflies. They're all 3 rows of entire butterflies without any missing pieces. And then I notice that there's pieces of butterflies on the right, so I go ahead and trim them off. And I don't check to see if my piece is big enough before I do that. And now it's too small. So now I have to make major adjustments to what I was planning on doing with this layout, because I have to figure out a way to cover that gap. So I decided I'm going to punch this Martha Stewart doily border punch out of white cardstock, and my punch is kind of working funky. So I actually am not going to make you watch it not working. I struggled with it for a few minutes and I just cut all that out. And so now I'm going to take this piece of cardstock and stick it under the wood grain paper. And before I did that, I shouldn't have put so much adhesive on it because I do end up having to move it. And I have to basically tear the whole layout apart and start over, which is awesome. So I go ahead and put that down, and then I stick my butterflies underneath. And everything is covered. There's none of that craft showing, so I'm good to go for adhering it down. So I'm going to adhere the butterflies flush with the edge of the paper, and then I'm just going to pull up the journaling and put the strip back down again, and then put the journaling back down again. But, you know, no one sees this part of the layout, so in the album it still looks perfectly fine and finished. So it's no worries if you need to do this. So then I just adhere the journaling back down, and then I'm going to trim. Either my journaling paper was a little bit bigger than 12 by 12, or my craft cardstock was a little bit smaller than 12 by 12 because I've got stuff hanging off the edges. So and then I have more white showing there than I would like. So I'm just going to take this scrap of polka dot paper from the collection that I have and just place it right on top so that it gives another layer, it gives more texture and dimension, and then it also keeps it from having too much white right there. It was just really bright white and it was bothering me. So I covered it up with a polka dot strip. It worked out fine. So now I'm going to adhere down my photo because I know exactly where I want it, or so I think. I go to adhere it down, and then I am going to erase my little line, my guideline. And I've got it lined up perfectly so that the photo corner is flush with the end of the journaling. And now I think those butterflies need to be dressed up a little bit. So this paper collection has a sheet of multicolored sort of lace strips. So I'm just going to cut out one of the strips to use as an embellishment on the layout. I thought I would cut it with scissors and I couldn't get the angle I wanted, so I just went and got my trusty craft knife. So I put some at the top and some at the bottom of the butterflies. And then I did have a piece left over, so I move it around to about 5 different places on this layout before I end up not using it at all. But you'll see it in several different spots as I work through this layout. And I just keep thinking, I'm going to use this little piece. I'm not going to throw this in the trash, but in the end, it gets scrapped. So the next thing I'm going to do is figure out my photo placement for my last 2 photos. And I want them to look like they were printed as a strip. They were actually printed as 2 individual prints. So what I'm doing is I've taped the fronts together with repositionable adhesive, and then I'm taping the backs together with Scotch tape. And Scotch has an acid-free scrapbooking tape that you can get so you don't have to worry about your photos being ruined. And then I'm just going to peel up the repositionable tape that was holding it in place while I worked on the back, and it's ready to adhere down. But basically those are pictures from the Moc Bai Bavet border crossing, which is a crossing from Ho Chi Minh City. It's the border crossing between Vietnam and Cambodia that's closest to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam and Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And so if you want to go from Vietnam to Cambodia, this is where you go through. And it's actually kind of a complicated process to go from Vietnam into Cambodia and then back again into Vietnam through this border crossing. And you have to know when and you're doing it before you leave the United States, because you have to get all your paperwork from the Vietnamese embassy before you leave the US. So that's what I wrote about in the journaling, how they had to really make a decision about when they were going to go to Cambodia, if they were going to go to Cambodia, how they were going to enter Cambodia, how they were going to re-enter Vietnam, because they had to have everything worked out with the Vietnamese before they left the United States. So now there's a sheet in this collection that's all kind of journaling pieces and tags and the like. So I am just cutting up some of the pieces from it to use on this layout. I'm focusing now on things that have turquoise. That's going to be my kind of pop of color for this layout. I'm starting to surround the photo with turquoise. It's in the lace, it's in that date strip, and it's in the big banner I chose, which is where I'm going to put my title. So now I'm just trimming down the pieces to use on the layout. And I liked the turquoise banner that was on that big ticket, but it would have been covered up when I put it under the photo, so that's why I cut it out first before I adhere this ticket down. And then here's where I'm realizing, no, I don't think this doily lace border is going to work here, so maybe I'll use it somewhere else. So I set it aside. I think I need one more thing down in that corner. So I want something yellow because there's no yellow on that side of the page. So I'm going to cut this ticket piece out since it's a border crossing, an international border crossing. and then I'm gonna adhere my banner over the blank strip where you would write something. And now I found another place, I think, for the doily, but it won't end up there in the end either. So now I'm just adhering the little banner to the ticket, and then I'm going to cut the excess ticket off. And when I adhere it to the page, that won't look weird because it'll actually look like the ticket is under the photo. So now I'm just going to start putting these things down, sticking them under the photo. I've lost the ticket, so that's why I was sitting there doing nothing, but I found it. I was trying to escape. So now that's going to go underneath the photo there. Just trying to make sure it's straight. I like things to be straight. All right, so now I'm going to put down the ticket and the little banner. And that's ultimately going to go down there, but I tried it up there and I didn't like it because it covered her backpack. And I want her backpack covered, so I put that there. And now I'm going to adhere down this date strip on the other side of the photo because there's that big empty space there, which is concrete floor, which is not very interesting, so we can go ahead and cover that up. And now I'm going to do my title. These are Amy Tangerine Thickers. They're a light gray with a darker gray wood grain. And they actually work really well for this layout because I accidentally printed, normally I put a white border around my photos and I accidentally made it light gray and it matches the thickers exactly, totally by accident, but it looks really cool. So that worked out really well. Then there was just too much blank space after the title went on, so I decided to add another little strip from that same sheet of cut-aparts from this collection. So I'm just going to stick this in there to kind of fill in that gap. But that causes me a problem because now I've introduced green onto the layout and there's no green anywhere else. So I'm thinking that I'm going to have to add some green somewhere else. So here I've added just another little strip from that same sheet and rounded the corners with the corner chomper from We Are Memory Keepers. And I'm going to staple the one corner with the tiny attacher. And then I try to staple the other side by poking holes and just pushing a staple through, and I hate the way that looks. So now I have something I have to cover up, which is lucky for me because I also need something green. So I get a wood grain butterfly from the My Mind's Eye Sweet Caroline stamps and some green ink. And I stamped it a few times to see, which one I like better to get a nice crisp impression. And then I cut the butterfly out and adhered it over the gross looking staple. And this is Colorbox Fluid Chalk ink in Olive Pastel. So now I'm just cutting my butterfly out, and then I'm going to put a glue dot in the center of the body and then put foam tape under the wings, and that way the butterfly will have dimension even after it's in a page protector. It won't get smushed flat. Its wings will still lift from the page. And then I am thinking, well, now I have butterflies in two places on the layout. I kind of want to add another butterfly, and I also want to add some more color to the bottom left of the screen. So I'm ultimately going to add another butterfly down there. And I also want to bring the pink in to that hot pink that's under the corner of the photo in a couple more places as well. So the first place is I'm going to put a brad through the center of the butterfly. It's a pink polka dot brad from Making Memories. So that's going to introduce some pink into the bottom right corner. And that's going to once I add the pink butterfly to the bottom left corner, then the main photo is going to be framed with butterflies in 3 places, with pink in 3 places, with turquoise in 3 places. So I've got several real strong triangles that are really framing out that area. And so now the pink butterfly is going down, and it's just cut from another scrap of the butterfly paper. You can actually see it on the right side of the screen. There's a little hole where that butterfly used to be. And the last thing is there's a little too much yellow at the top of the page there. It's bugging me. So I found a cut apart from the collection that actually fit in that space pretty well. And so it won't look like it's floating there kind of for no reason. I'm going to add photo corners to it. And I cut the photo corners out of the same wood grain paper I used for the journaling. And I punched those with the Martha Stewart photo corner punch. You see how that actually looks really nice right there. So I'm going to add foam tape to the back of it and stick it right down. And that is going to complete the layout. So this is another layout for my sister's travel journal. Thank you so much for watching.